Morning. Good morning, all. My name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company in Oakland. We handle financial planning for clients. We do taxes for our clients. We also do accounting for small businesses. I was hired roughly 13 years ago by Prudential Retirement. By the way, now they're going to be referred to as Empower Retirement. So I was hired roughly 13 years ago to provide retirement planning, investment advice / guidance, and education to county employees. Okay, a little bit about my background. I've been a licensed stockbroker for roughly 20 years, helping each and every one of my clients create wealth, maintain that wealth throughout their lifetime of their children, and if they're interested, the lifetime of their grandchildren. And I'm also a retirement counselor. And my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. Okay, maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. What exactly does that mean? Well, in a nutshell, my goal is to help you create the exact same income you're receiving now in retirement, right? So that's a goal of mine. Now, typically, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, you don't need 100% of your income in retirement, but I like to shoot for 100%. And if we have to settle for 80, that's fine as well, okay? So for roughly the next 30, 45 minutes, I'm going to talk about retirement readiness, what sort of steps you should take to ensure that you're going to be comfortable in retirement, because I can't tell you how many times I have heard from participants who assume they're going to retire. They go into that meeting with a Sarah, and then they realize they can't retire. They're not bringing in enough income from a Sarah, so they have to go back to work. So my goal is to kind of help you folks really iron out truly if you can retire. And there's some things you should be thinking about along the way. Okay. So let's see my screen. There we go. All right. So let's talk about, throughout this presentation, I'm going to refer to these retirement mile markers, right? The first one is conduct a situation analysis, so on and so forth. I know I mentioned here health insurance. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. I'd rather you focus your attention with a Sarah in terms of Medicare, et cetera. So let's dive into it. Okay. The first step is to start with your current situation. Do an analysis, right? So the first thing you want to do is, okay, how much income am I bringing in right now? Gross, not net. How much is my annual gross salary? You write that number down. Okay. And then the next step is to determine what is my guaranteed income streams, right? So if you have investment property, you're getting income streams from that, you want to write that down. Obviously here you want a Sarah. Create a user ID and password for the website. Put in a number of different ages. It'll give you an analysis or give you an idea of roughly how much you should expect to receive from a Sarah, and you want to write that down, right? The next step is if you're at least 62 and you've paid into Social Security, right? You want to write down, okay, how much should I expect to receive from Social Security? Go to ssa.gov, create a user ID and password, subtract out Social Security. So you have your income, your current income, subtract out any other pensions that you have, a Sarah, Social Security, see where you stand, right? And if you're short, right, that's the time to take the necessary steps to see if you have enough in deferred comp to cover that shortfall. And I can certainly help you with that. Okay. Now, when you do retire, there are a number of different sources of retirement. And I'm going to dive into those sources. And as I mentioned before, roughly most folks need about 80% of their income, right? So for most retirees, you're looking at roughly 30, 40% of your income is going to come from Social Security. And this is your typical retiree, not necessarily for you folks. For many retirees, roughly 20% will come from a pension. Less than 5% is the other category. Hey, you anticipate receiving an inheritance. Maybe you hit the lotto, right? But the bulk of you folks are going to receive your income from savings and earnings, right? From your 457, from a 401k IRA. And unfortunately, some of you are going to have to work to make ends meet. And that, in my view, is unacceptable. Let's put yourself in a position where if you want to work, you can, but you don't have to work. But the bulk of your income will come from your retirement savings. Okay, here are some other suggested milestones. Say you're 50 years old and you're on this call, right? Maybe you're a sheriff deputy that can retire early. What should you be thinking about at age 50? You know, off the top of my head, and I may cover this a little bit later, is take advantage of the catch-up, right? For 2022, you can put away $27,000 a year, right? So take full advantage of the catch-up if you're 50 and over. Once you're 59 and a half, you want to start thinking about the pros and cons of withdrawing money early. Now, the good news with deferred comp, there is no such thing as an early withdrawal penalty. So that doesn't even apply, but maybe you have an IRA at a different institution, or maybe you have a 401k from your previous employer. Those accounts are subject to that penalty that you will avoid at 59 and a half. But I would encourage you, don't pull the money because you can, right? To avoid that penalty, pull the money when you need it, when you're actually retired. So let it continue to grow over time. 62 is an age you want to start thinking about collecting Social Security early at 62, right? If you do collect it early, you're going to get a drop from what you would have gotten at age 66 or 67. But again, don't collect it because you can. Collect it because you need it. You're in retirement. 65 is the age in which you want to start thinking about signing up for Medicare. 66 for many folks is full retirement age to collect Social Security. 70 is pretty much the latest in which you can collect Social Security, right? And you'll get the maximum benefit. And then 72 is when the age in which you need to start withdrawing some of your money due to the required minimum distribution. Okay. So let's talk about your 50 plus. 2022, if you're under 50, you can put away $20,500 a year. And if you're 50 and over, you can put away $27,000. Okay. And in an IRA, you can put away $6,000 if you're under 50. You can add an additional $1,000 if you're 50 and over. And by the way, for 2023, the maximum limits have increased significantly. So if you're under 50 and you're contributing in 2023, you can put away $22,500. So that's $22,500. That's for 2023. So you want to start completing paperwork to make sure that you're going to hit those maximums for next year. You might as well go ahead and do that now. And if you're 50 and over, you can put away $30,000 a year. And for an IRA, you can put away, if you're under 50, you can put away $6,500. And if you're 50 and over, you can put away $7,500. And that's in an IRA. And there's nothing to preclude you from doing both. Now, you may or may not be able to deduct IRA contributions. It all depends on how much you make. Check with your tax advisor to confirm it. Here's the 3-year catch-up. I'm sure there's a lot of you maybe on the call that's curious about that. The IRS, at least in 2022, will allow you to put away $41,000 for 3 years. The soonest you can benefit or take advantage of the 3-year catch-up, if you're a safety employee, is 47. If you're a regular county employee, it's 54 and a half. please reach out to Darnell Williams, Darnell, darnell.williams@acgov.org to confirm whether or not you qualify for the special catch-up. By the way, in 2023, the limits have gone up, like I said, significantly. You can put away upwards of $45,000 a year for 3 years. Estate planning, not going to go into a whole lot of detail, just want to throw some information out there for you. Estate planning is the process of making sure your affairs are in order as you get older, or if and when you pass away. You know, does it make sense to create a living trust? I'm sure many of you on the call feel that, hey, you know, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of money. I don't know if it's necessary for me to even have a living trust. Well, if you own a home in the San Francisco Bay Area and it's pretty close to being paid off, or even if it's not paid off, that's a significant asset that could potentially put your heirs in a probate situation. Creating a living trust helps to avoid probate, because probate is a process where, you know, your beneficiaries have to wait a whole year before they can access their inheritance, right? Family members can come out of the woodworks to make a claim on your asset if it has to go through probate. So a living trust avoids that. Listing beneficiaries on your retirement and bank accounts helps to avoid probate. And holding property jointly, or holding investment accounts, savings accounts jointly, that's another way in which you could help to avoid probate. What should you start thinking about once you're 60 plus? You want to start thinking about when is a good time to collect Social Security. Now, most people believe, all right, it's 66 or it's 67, right? But it's actually 66 and months, depending on when you were born. So here's a kind of a list. You were born between 43 and 54, full retirement age, meaning you can collect your Social Security, is 66. If you were born in 1960 or later, you're looking at 67. But I would encourage each and every one of you, log on to ssa.gov, create a user ID and password, and find out when is full retirement for you. Okay, I'm sure many of you have heard that, and I mentioned it earlier, that the older you are before you collect Social Security, there's a very good chance you'll get even more money. So here's an example of a person who's age 62. If they were to collect Social Security early, you're looking at $18,000. At 66, 24. At age 70, you're looking at 32. You know, there was a time in my career where I told folks, you know, you want to wait until at least full retirement to collect Social Security. Maybe even wait until you're 70, right, to get the maximum benefit. But I've kind of changed my tune a little bit, especially with this pandemic, especially with COVID-19. I have family members, folks that are passing away prematurely, right? And there's something that my uncles used to tell me all the time. Sometimes, you know, all money is not necessarily good money, right? Why wait until age 70 to collect Social Security? You know, tomorrow is not guaranteed, is not promised. So I would encourage, you know, collect Social Security as soon as you can, especially if you're not working. But if you're interested in truly understanding the benefits of waiting, et cetera, and it makes sense for you and your family, then you can certainly reach out to me and I can give you some guidance there. Okay. Also keep in mind, Social Security is potentially taxable depending on your situation. So if you have income, and that's including income from a SERA, some of your Social Security may be taxable. Right? So I don't know your personal situation, but check with your tax person, check with your CPA to confirm whether or not your situation, given your situation, whether or not your Social Security will be taxable. Okay. 65, that's another milestone age that you want to start thinking about, you know, your withdrawal strategy. You want to start thinking about health insurance. right? Medicare, et cetera. But I'm going to talk a little bit about a withdrawal strategy. I typically tell people when it comes to your retirement assets, your IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457b, in terms of determining how much you should take out, I really think you should focus on a 4% number. 4% is a good starting point. It's not the end all be all, but it's a good starting point. So what do I mean by that? So you're collecting Social Security, you're collecting a SARA, you're collecting other pensions. You have a pool of assets in deferred comp, right? Take 4% of your account balance. And that's how much you should roughly take out. No more, no less, well, definitely no more than 4% per year. So just take 4% of your account balance and just recognize, all right, I feel pretty comfortable in taking that out. If you take out more, you potentially run the risk of running out of money. But that 4% is a moving target. I'd rather folks January or even in December determining whether or not 4% is too much or too little. I mean, when we're in a down market, then maybe 4% should drop to maybe 3.5 or 3. Consider that. But let's have a conversation. Okay. You have an account in deferred comp, right? You have the ability, if you're interested, of leaving the money invested in deferred comp. And there's benefits of that. Nothing changes with deferred comp, with the exception that you just cannot add to it any longer, right? And here are some of the benefits of staying with the plan, but it's completely up to you. You know, there are some people that say to me, well, Gene, I would rather invest in individual stocks. I want to buy your Apple, Google, Amazon. I want to buy that stock. And unfortunately, you cannot buy that stock in deferred comp. Now, you can buy it through a mutual fund, but you can't just buy that individual security. So in that case, I want to roll my money to an IRA. That may make sense, right? Or maybe you want to invest your money in real estate. Can't do that in deferred comp. So it may make sense to roll your money into an IRA. Okay. But if you're simply going to roll your money to an IRA to just simply invest in mutual fund, similar to what you have in deferred comp, you might want to consider leaving it. So let's just have a conversation about that. It just stays in the plan. You don't have to determine how much you want to take out per month, per year, et cetera. It stays in the plan until you turn 72. And then once you turn 72, you're required by law to take out what is called the minimum required distribution. Okay. What accounts should you tap first? I typically tell people start with taxable money, monies that have already been taxed. Pull that money and then move to your tax deferred money, any money that's pre-tax. And then lastly, keep your Roth or tax-free money last, simply to allow that money to continue to grow over time without taxes being involved. But it depends on your situation. If you want to have a conversation about that, we can. Also keep in mind there's still risks. This is a different topic. There's still risk associated with investing in deferred comp or any account, right? I know up to this point, you're really focused on investment risk, the risk of the stock market, right? You still have to deal with that in retirement, but you know, there's still inflation risk. Right now, inflation is almost at a 40-year high. It's roughly 6%. It's come down a little bit. So your money's not buying as much as it has in the past. So there's inflation risk. There's longevity risk. That's the risk of running out of money. So you have to be thoughtful about that. Okay. Who knows if taxes will go up on folks in the future. So there's tax risk associated with your account. So don't rest on your laurels after you retire. Recognize you got to be smart. You need to talk to folks that are experts in the field of investing and retirement savings, et cetera. So reach out to myself, Mark Tomei, Jason Brummett. Even in retirement, you still have access to us. Doesn't cost you anything. Okay. This slide here makes the point about longevity risk, right? An age of a woman who's 65 today can expect to make it to 87. A man at 65 will make it to 84. 1 in 4 folks will make it to 90 plus, right? So again, be thoughtful about how you're spending your money, be responsible. Remember what I talked about, that 4% number is a good starting point in terms of how much you should consider withdrawing from your account in retirement. Really, only if you need it. Okay. 66 and 70 is another milestone. You want to be thinking about the impact of taking Social Security benefits. And I made this point a little earlier. Here's a slide in which you have a person at full retirement who decides to wait until age 70 to collect Social Security. You'll get a 32% monthly bump in Social Security if you wait, right? Now, in theory, when you do the math, if you're a person that has great genes, you anticipate living until you're 90 plus, then when you do the math, it makes sense to wait until you're age 70. You're in not so great health. You don't see living much longer than 5, 10 years. Then it may make sense to collect it early. Most of us fall smack dab in the middle. So collecting it at full retirement at 66 or 67 may make sense. But again, I can't belabor the point more. Tomorrow is not promised. I'd rather you enjoy your money now, because who knows, you may not make it to age 70. I know that's a really morbid thing to think about, but it's entirely possible, especially with this pandemic still raging in our community. As soon as you retire, depending on the age, I would encourage you, collect Social Security. At least let's have a thoughtful conversation about it to see if it makes sense. 72, another milestone age. This is where you want to start thinking about required minimum distribution. You're required to take out at least, when you do the math, it's roughly 4 to 5% of your account per year. And unfortunately, if you don't take out that minimum required distribution on time, the IRS could hit you with a penalty of 50%. Now, one caveat, if you're 70 plus, 72, 73, and you're still working for the county, you're not required to take out your minimum required distribution out of your deferred comp account. You're not required because you're still working. However, if you're 70 plus and you have an IRA or 401k at a different institution, you're required to take out that minimum out of those accounts, but not out of deferred comp. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. But once you leave county service, you're 74 and you decide, okay, that's it, I'm not working anymore. You're required in that year to start taking out that minimum. And I would encourage you to reach out to Empower and have them calculate that for you every year automatically. The last thing you want to do is forget to take that money out and then get hit with a penalty. Why not have Empower calculate that for you and send that to you? Okay. So with that, the end is just the beginning, right? You've spent this time. This is part of the accumulation phase of your career. This is the accumulation phase. Now, once you've accumulated the assets in your deferred comp account or in a 401k, et cetera, now it's a matter of managing that money properly, making sure you don't invest too conservatively, because I'm sure many of you on this call probably feel, okay, makes sense, I'm retired, I should move everything to the stable value account or the guaranteed interest account. Right now, it pays 1.75% per year. It's a decent rate of return in this interest rate environment. But what are the risks of that? I just earlier talked about how inflation is at 6+%. So if inflation is at 6+% and you're only earning 1.75, did you truly make any money? No, you're losing money due to inflation, right? So you may want to consider, maybe you don't want to put everything in the stock market, but maybe put half or put a quarter of your money in the stock market and leave the rest in something safe. That at least potentially gets you a better rate of return that will exceed inflation. Okay. If you haven't invested in deferred comp and you still have a year or even 6 months, it doesn't matter. It's never too late to invest in deferred comp. Put in as much money as you can. Take advantage of that 3-year catch up. I'm sure there's some folks that have money in the credit union, probably not earning a whole heck of a lot. You may want to consider transitioning some of that money into deferred comp to give you that the tax break. It'll save you in taxes and also save towards maybe paying a water bill throughout retirement, right? It's never too late. Okay. If you haven't created a user ID and password for the website, I would encourage you to do so. There's a retirement income calculator that's on the site where you can kind of get a feel for whether or not you're on track for a secure retirement. So create a user ID and password. As I mentioned before, there are 3 excellent financial advisors that are here to help you through this retirement planning journey. Myself in the middle, Mark on the left, Jason on the right. You can reach us at 855-969-4572. Hit option 3 to schedule an appointment. You can log online at prudential.com/retire wow to schedule an appointment. If you want to bypass this 800 number and you want to reach out to me directly, I'm certainly available. My telephone number is 510-562-6355, or you can email me at g_Hilliard, HILLIARD, at emergefinancial.com. So reach out to me. It'll be my pleasure, my honor to help you in any way I can. As I mentioned before, it doesn't cost you anything. Okay. So with that, I'd love to entertain any questions. The burning question.
Thank you so much, Gene. That was an amazing presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mike.